All right, y'all. So a few of my associates been calling me. A couple of people I know, and a lot of them are talking about what's going on with this new administration and everything that's going on economically. These guys looking to cut and get rid of a lot of the financial supports that's in place, whether it's welfare, Section 8, WIC. A lot of financial safety nets are going to be removed as a result of this new administration. So guys are getting, a few people are, whatever. And also what we see going on with the immigration policies, where a lot of people are being removed, and what's happening now, people are, there's going to be inflation. It's going to be inflation, right? There's going to be a lot of inflation, so prices are going to start. We're going to see a lot of prices on produce going to start going up, because they're going to pass the buck. Companies are going to pass the buck. They're going to have to pay higher wages to get people to substitute the migrant workers, and ultimately they're going to pass the buck to us, the consumers. So a lot of people, a few people have been talking about it. But here's what I want to say in terms of economics. Listen, there's no such thing as lack. There's no such thing as lack. Like, literally, there's no such thing as lack. What I mean by that is, if you think about something like an apple tree, right? The seed of an apple falls into the soil, another tree grows, and that one tree provides a multitude of apples for people to eat, right? You think of like any kind of fruits. It doesn't have to be apple. Think of any kind of trees, fruit trees or whatever, trees that grow fruits. Like, you plant one seed, and that one seed turns into a tree, and that tree produces multiple fruits, and we have the benefits of that to eat. Without getting too spiritual and biblical, that's what Jesus talks about. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, because when you plant that seed, it grows into a bushel. A bushel is just a large quantity of produce. So the reality is, there's no such thing as lack. There really isn't. I'll tell you where lack exists. It's a mindset. It's a mindset, and it's an illusory mindset, because it's all a part of the illusion, the veil. If there's lack in your life, it's just because there's lack in your psyche. You psychologically lack, and therefore you see lack everywhere you look. You see scarcity everywhere you look. But the world is an abundant place. Now, I get it. We live in capitalism, where one guy's worth $400-500 billion, $500 billion. And, given 10 lifetimes, his children given 10 lifetimes, they won't be able to spend that money. So what you do have is corporate greed. I do agree to that. There's corporate greed. Capitalism is built off greed. I do believe that, you have one person, I use the number one, but it just means like a limited number of people that control the mass of resources. So it's called an oligarch, right? You can call them the oligarchs, or the elites, the super wealthy, right? Where you have a small group that controls the majority of the resources. So that you do have. And that can cause the illusion of lack to seem real, right? Because if one person, and when I say one person, I mean a small group, corners a market, then to the exclusion of all else, then it seems as if, there's a lack, but there's really no lack, right? The market is just being cornered, and that creates the illusion of lack. But the moral of what I'm trying to say here is that it's up to me, using myself as an example, to position myself, to put myself in a position where the resources flow to me. You see what I'm saying? The resources are going to flow to me, because resources are always flowing. Like I said, there's no lack. It's always flowing. It's always flowing. And it's up to me to put myself in a position where resources flow abundantly in my coffers, in my bank account, in my storehouse, in my repository, right? In my chambers. So there's no lack. There's zero lack. I refuse to accept the idea of lack, because like I said, that's like saying there's a lack in the ocean just because I don't have, the ocean flowing to me. There's no lack in the ocean. The ocean is abundant. I might not have a big enough bucket to take some water out of the ocean, but that doesn't mean that there's a lack in the ocean. I just don't have the right tools to be able to, receive whatever that ocean is. So there's no lack in the world. Oxygen, there's no lack. There's no lack. Think of oxygen. It's an abundance of oxygen. Nature is abundant. That's the point I'm trying to make. Nature is abundant. Forests, no matter how much they cut down forests, you're still going to always have an abundance of trees. You're going to have an abundance of everything that's natural in nature. There's no lack in nature. So that's a principle that tells you that there's no lack in finances. There's no lack in resources. It's just a lack in our psyche. It's a scarcity in our psyche. If you believe money is hard to come by, it's exactly that's making it hard to come by. The fact that you believe it's hard to. The fact you believe money is hard to come by is what's making money hard to come by. You see what I'm saying? So, I don't want this to sound like some, mythical woo-woo science. No, it's a reality. It's the only reality that if you see lack and scarcity, you're going to experience lack and scarcity, because the world has no choice but to reinforce your own ideologies. And if your ideologies and your concepts are one of lack and scarcity and hard to come by and always trying to struggle and check to check, barely getting, then you're going to constantly keep, the world is going to reinforce that. It's going to reinforce your belief. It has to confirm and validate your belief. Because if you believe in the scarcity lack mentality, the world is going to reinforce that, confirm that, validate that. So there's no lack. There's no lack. Don't let them fool you with, we're in a recession and blah, blah, blah. I always tell people this, and I have clients, when I talk to my clients, I always tell them, ignore the noise. I know it's hard to do, very hard to do. It's easier said than done, but you got to learn to ignore the noise. Ignoring the noise is the hardest thing to do, and here's why it's the hardest thing to do. The noise is not an external noise. It starts off that way. The news media, newspaper articles, friends and family members. So it starts off as external noise, but then it ends up as an internal noise or an internal dialogue, an internal conversation. So all the negativity that's flowing around you, whether it be the TV, radio, news media, etc., social media, your friends, family, wherever the source of it comes from, doesn't matter. It's then internalized and it becomes your own dialogue. It becomes your inner conversation. That's why it's hard to ignore the noise, because the noise is not coming from outside. The noise is not coming from inside of your own head. How do you ignore the noise that's coming from inside of you? But that's the art, that's the skill, that's the craft. You got to learn to ignore the noise. And by ignoring the noise, you stay focused, laser-like focus on what the goal is, what the mission is, what the purpose is. And ultimately, the outcome will be in your favor if you're able to walk that fine line of focus. Till next time, peace.